Right, this is off to a good start. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bedomy and this is Deadly Broadcast, a first-person horror co-op game developed by Apphic Games, and do not confuse them with Epic Games, because Google already does that. Apphic is a Istanbul-based phone game developer, and this is their first foray into the PC market, and for what they're doing a pretty decent job, not gonna lie. The idea of the game is, well, has some uniqueness to it. Co-optional horror games are, well, they're not a frequent occurrence. There is Dead by Daylight, Deceit, Hide and Go Shriek. Okay, there's a bunch of them, and I'm probably missing a bunch of them at this point, but what I'm trying to say is most of the games I mentioned usually focus on PvP. This is a PvE horror game experience. Basically, you're playing as a streamer, and you can join up with 4 friends, if I'm not mistaken, on a very cursed streaming situation. It's you're visiting abandoned hospitals and prisons in order to stream from there, but we'll get to that when we get to the gameplay. I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown of the situation. I did a early coverage of this game a couple of weeks ago, so if you're interested in learning something more about the earlier build, go watch that. I'll put a link. Well, there will be a end credits, or there will be a link in the description or in the video, so you can visit that later on. But on my first review of this game, I didn't go easy on it. It had some good ideas, but the execution of the said ideas was messy. There were clipping issues, control problems, lighting issues, sound effects were a mixed bag. It wasn't a complete game at that point. This is still a work in progress when I'm reviewing, but I do believe that the developers did fix a lot of problems, but since the last time I reviewed this game. Granted, there are still some problems present in this one. For starters, the game crashed several times when I tried to start it up in order to make this review. And while I still had my gamepads hooked on my PC, the game couldn't recognize the mouse and keyboard, so I had to try to Alt-Tab, try to Control-Delete, and use a bunch of shortcuts in order to either shut down the game or restart my PC, but nothing happened. I had to do a hard reset on the game, and by that I mean you had to punch it with a hammer. That doesn't mean I had to punch my computer with a hammer. I pressed the button for it, but yeah, there are some issues that really have to be fixed before this game is ready for open public. Well, not open public. It's already. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a closed beta or something, but the game is not ready for a wider audience just yet. Is all I'm trying to say. It still needs some work to be done. So first things first, let's take a look at the options menu as always. And as you can see, there weren't many changes attached to the options menu. I still have the 4 categories that I can adjust. Although this time, most of these adjustments will affect the gameplay. The general options will allow you to adjust the mouse sensitivity and master volume. You can turn off the... Okay, I'm just gonna lower the audio a bit. Never mind, it's still not working properly. Which is surprising because on my last playthrough I did readjust my audio to a 0.25 and it got quieter, but this time it's not working as intended, so Apphic, you'll have to fix this problem again. You can adjust the preferred language. You can choose your preferred language depending on the choices you have. You can invert the look sensitivity from up to down, but I play without it. Graphically, you could adjust your visual quality as well as the screen resolution and brightness. To be fair, on the last review I did of this game, the brightness was here, and you could adjust the number to your personal preference, but for some reason then nothing changed. So I'm happy to report that in this case the game the developers did fix that problem, so you can adjust the brightness to your own personal preference. I would recommend that you go for not full one, but go to a half. It should make things easier if you don't want to play with the flashlight all the time. So control-wise, the game is the game has been fixed in the terms of controls, so to speak. But as you can see, if you try to click and hold and pull down, this is gonna have a reverse effect. It looks like the controls are inverted even if they're disabled. At least for the controls, or the menu controls. But as you can see, every key can be reminded to a separate action, which is always good. But unfortunately, some of these actions do not function as intended. They either don't work, or they have they're attached to a different animation, or they don't start immediately when you press the button. That still has to be worked out. But I will give credit where credit's due. Apphic did fix that one annoying issue that I had in the first review, and that is the controls were set in stone, more or less. So even if you change the controls in the settings, you still have to use the default controls in order to perform specific actions. So, for example, I rebounded the use key to the lean right key, which is E, and put the use key F. And when I tried to interact with something, the game just ignored the input until I pressed E and leaned to the side, and then the game would react and I could interact with the object. So I'm glad that that's fixed. And finally, the broadcast options are enabled, which is basically a user interface. It allows you to adjust the stream chat and notifications to your own personal preference, but at this point there is only top and bottom, as well as the frequency of notifications and the sound cue of the said notifications that should play out if you're in a specific situation or if you get a subscriber, I think. But so far I had no audio cues for any notifications, so well, might as well try to... Oh, now it works. Give a sec. Okay, so notifications level will just be the sound level of the notifications, not the frequency of those notifications. Just before you ask, I did play with the settings before I started the review, but this did not happen, so this is new. Okay, there was an update before I started recording, so that might be the fix I was talking about. We'll see in a couple of minutes. But yeah, this is the Deadly Broadcast options menu. And as I mentioned, this is a co-optional game, so you can access multiplayer lobbies if there were any. Unfortunately, I cannot find anyone to play with, and the last time I tried to play with someone, the game just kicked me out or kicked the other person out of the menu of the game, so it ended up as a single-player experience once again. So for this one, I'm just gonna hop into the single-player portion and just give you a basic rundown of the gameplay itself. Okay, seems that the fix I mentioned extended the load times, unfortunately, so we'll have to wait for a bit. So I'll edit this part out and get us into the gameplay when we get there. So if you'll excuse me. And we're back. Welcome back, folks. We had another crash in the game, so I'm just starting from here. Well, not restarting, I started the game again and got to this point. Anyway, welcome to the character selection. From here you can choose more than 4 characters this time. They added some additional heroes, or streamers to be more precise. But unfortunately, the game still doesn't do anything with the characters, despite the fact that you have multiple characters from different backgrounds. I mean, there's a beauty blogger, there's a technologist, a gamer. Let's see, a moto enthusiast, a dancer, a street fighter, parkour runner, a bodybuilder, and there we go. 8 characters in total, and all of them have the same speed, same jumping distance, same punching power. There's no difference between the characters. That's kind of sad, not gonna lie. I kind of like the idea that you can play as multiple characters, but I would prefer it if your defining characteristics weren't just your number of followers. And let's switch to someone else. I feel I'm gonna pick at random, closing my eyes, and stop. Street Fighter. Okay, that sounds interesting. So yeah, you pick a character. You can learn about them a bit if you read their biographies, if you can call it that. It's just a couple of sentences about what they do and how they got there. And there is no statistics or any special abilities that these characters possess. This is just your avatar throughout the course of the game. That's all there is to it. Also, you can... this is new. This is map selection. You can select between 2 maps, and you can even learn about them a bit more if you're interested. So, if you want to... I'm not too sure how this will work in multiplayer. Will the host choose the map, or do people just vote for it? I honestly don't know. I tried to play with people. I tried to play multiplayer maps a couple of times, but nobody showed up, so I cannot tell you how the multiplayer experience works, unfortunately. So for this one, I'm going to go with how we explored the hospital on the first review. Let's take a look at the prison map. So, the gameplay is more or less the same. Well, it's...
Quiet as death. Ruthburg Prison was the place where the most notorious criminals were once brought. It was famous with its brutal and merciless guards. Some source says that everybody in this prison had dirty hands. Guards, prisoners, administration, and even janitors.
Well, obviously they had dirty hands. They were cleaning the place up. So let's skip the introduction for now, because, well, I mean, there isn't much to spoil. There is no story practically in this game. It's always the same thing. You go from place A to place B, and then discover the pentagram, and run away from monsters while you try to... Whoa! Okay, that's new. Run away or fight the monsters that are chasing you while you try to solve the mystery and lift the curse from yourself. So, as you can see, this is an... okay, that's kind of funny. Although I'm not too sure how much legality does Apphic have to use certain sound effects, because I know for a fact that Run Bitch Run is from the Scary Movie, and it's one of the more quotable lines in the film. But, yes, as I was saying, the game has been updated quite a lot. As you can see, the texture quality has been improved. Although I'm pretty sure most of these assets are just lifted from Unity store page. But don't quote me on that, I'll Run, bitch! Run! Soon for a second, I'm just gonna tone down the notifications for now. I'm pretty sure that copyright infringement laws are still in effect for this. But yes, as you can see, the game does look like this area looks like a prison. Not gonna lie, dirty walls, locker rooms, and audio-wise, the game has been. This is an improvement. The sound effects are spot on, and there's still a clipping issue, it seems. As you can see, my foot kind of showed up for a second instead of a boot, but I can still. Ah, there we go. There's my foot. Ah, there we go. But as you can see and hear, the sound quality really sells the footsteps. Oh, and there's also the upgrades to the item placement. Sorry, I took a chance to read up on the improvements they added. It seems that the game also fixed the item placement problem where it just spawned random items on areas you wouldn't expect them. For example, you would probably look for a key to the courtyard in the changing room because guards are there, so you'd probably one of them would probably have a key, so this would be the first place you would look in. But on occasion, I did find the keys to the courtyard at the end of this hallway, which was odd and didn't make much sense. But then again, this was a horror game, so I assumed that the developers wanted to set the mood properly. And with the lighting effects as they are now, I have to admit this is a pretty spooky situation. And I'm just gonna try to tone down the brightness just to see if there's a difference. Oh, night and day difference. Not gonna lie, this is really an improvement. I remember my first playthrough of this. It was whoa, what the? Oh, whoa! It was practically a nightmare to do. And still, some effects are still not complete. As you can see, this is just a weird electricity effect. If I ever saw one, at first I thought it was a bunch of fairies or something on the floor. But yeah, this game has improved since the last time I played it. Let's see if I can jump over it. Yes, I can jump it. Lovely. So they added some additional elements to the gameplay. It's not just go to place, find the thing, and get killed by monsters. It's now it has a full gameplay to it. It's, as you can see, I have to locate the fuse box and turn off the electricity. Only then can I get into the basement in order to find out what's happening. Ah, there we go. So let's see if the game has improved. Well, the leading has been butchered, so it's not working anymore, but I can pick up the items I want to with the key I set up, which is good. And to make matters even nicer, the items I can pick up and interact with are highlighted in the dark so I can find them easier. Although, Not gonna lie, some of these corpses could use work. This is just... I mean, there's a shock factor when you see it for the first time, but... and in a distance, but when you get up close and personal with them, it's not creepy. It's kind of silly. Not gonna lie. So yeah, this is Deadly Broadcast. You find the pentagram on the floor. You reassemble it, and then you get cursed by something. And from then on, it becomes survival horror at its. I won't say its finest. It's just survival horror on a basic level. As you can see, the monsters all look the same, but the sound effects are improved. Not gonna lie, this is nice. Although I really wish that the introduction for the curse was varied a bit. I mean, I had to do the same thing in the hospital level, and I understand this is an intro, so this is the simplest way to introduce the player to the situation. It's you went to do something stupid, and it ended up paying the price. But a slight variation to the... Well, okay, there's still some clipping issues. There are still some clipping issues there. But a bit of a variation to the formula might do the game some good. As this, I'm just hopping down a platform, and if I try to kill myself, I'll just get teleported back. So there's basically a no harm, no foul situation, and that's kind of pointless. It would be nice if the game added a little more to the puzzle elements when it comes to the introduction. Just make me work to solve the mystery, basically. I mean, there are some questions as to what is this thing and why am I required to reassemble it. And there's always a small introductory cinematic that will, show me what happened. Although the animation quality is a bit childish. Well, not childish, but limited. And also the models are somewhat repetitive and on the cheaper side, not gonna lie there. I do like the ambience of the world, not gonna lie. The lighting, the sound effects, and the overall idea of the game is nice to see and enjoy, but I would prefer it if the studio put some more money into animations and modeling when it comes to characters. Also, I'm trying to get into a crouch position, but the control button is not working, so I'm crouching apparently, but by the height of it, I think I'm lying prone, so there is that. And also, the monsters have been redone a bit. Oh! Okay. Whoa! Oh, call. Attack him! Good! The monsters have been redone a bit, but not completely. There are still some clipping issues, as you can see. What the? What the fuck? What the frack? Okay, that happened. Yeah, but as you can see, monsters have been redone a bit. They have some glowing effects to them, and they also clip through the walls and depending on your stance, apparently. Yeah. My hit just got reflected to me, and I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure I hit the monster on the head several times, and I still got killed. But at the very least, you can see the end screen for the first time. So in the multiplayer, I think that revival and total kills and all these scores would play an integral role for the whole team to see who scored the highest number of points, and that would declare the top streamer, I think. But as it is, it's kind of pointless. You could check your own statistics, and apparently there's a multiplier. So yeah, you can get your team statistics, your own personal statistics, and the game will just end abruptly there. But thankfully, there is no end timer, so even if you encounter the ghost that teleports you around the area, the game will not end abruptly, and you can explore the whole map, which is a nice thing. And speaking of maps, I'm pretty sure that Apphic will create more maps in the future, and I'm fairly certain that every map will have its unique selling points. But as it is, the maps are very claustrophobic, so you don't have much room to maneuver in them, which is kind of a point, but still. If the game has stealth elements in it, the rooms and areas we explore should be a bit bigger so that we can hide in them and use them in a more stealthy manner if we don't want to fight monsters. As they are now, the maps are just mazes with occasional jump scares, and that's gonna kill the game's longevity, at least in the horror factor. And while the monster and item spawning is randomized, there is still a rule to them. A monster or an item will spawn in this room at this specific time, and it will respawn after a set amount of time.
Shh, be quiet!
And once you know those tricks, you can just avoid the rooms, and you're pretty much just doing a walking simulator. Granted, you will be forced to encounter the monsters periodically, but still, you can avoid them if you know how. And this might be your best option in this case. The game's combat system is, as you saw, broken. There's no way around it. The monsters either clip for you, or the block doesn't pass, or your attack is blocked and you just get hit. And the fact that your attack will not pass if you're not in the same stance as the monster will just discourage you from fighting. Which is understandable considering this is a horror game and everything, but the corridors I have to navigate through are pretty narrow, so even if I try to avoid combat, I will get punished even if I try to play very stealthily. So in most cases, my best option is to just go in there and kill a monster with whatever I have on hand, which is usually an axe or a knife, that break down after a couple of fights. And I'll give credit where credit's due. The weapon deterioration is nicely presented to the player. After a few hits, your weapon will either dent or lose a part of it, and eventually break down completely. When that happens, your best bet is to just run away from the monster and find another weapon. Or get some distance and pull another one from your inventory if you already got one. The game respawns items frequently, so you'll never find yourself wanting for an extra weapon or a healing item. Although there is a limited inventory space, so you will have to consider your scavenging carefully. For me, the most optimal way to manage my inventory was 2 healing items, 3 melee weapons, and the rest was just a flare gun and the ammunition. But I did come across hidden objects and keys, which just went into another inventory and they could be accessed whenever. Well, the keys could be accessed whenever I needed them. The hidden objects didn't do anything. I'm guessing that's a new feature that will be added with another update, but for now they're just there. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that the hidden objects will affect the ending of the game. If we collect all of them, we will get another ending, otherwise we just walk out of the haunted place safe and sound. Once we lift the curse, that is. And speaking of curses, what do they do? For one, that's the reason why you're locked in the area, so you want to lift it in order to get out. And 2, that's why the monsters are hunting you, which is all pretty standard. But what I want to know is, what's the point of having a symbol on my hand if it doesn't do anything in the gameplay itself? If I were to hazard a guess, it might be a revival spell that helps us revive fallen streamers in the multiplayer, but as it is, it's kind of useless in the single-player portion. If anything, it just makes you an easier target for the... I don't want to call them zombies, but there isn't much variation when it comes to the humanoid enemies that you're about to encounter. And considering the fact that they're dead and walking, Yeah, I'm just gonna call them zombies.
Oh,
They
shit.
rarely do anything apart from standing around or munching on corpses and beelining it towards you when they spot you. Physics be damned. They'll just run through closed doors, objects, anything in order to get to you.
Oh, shit.
And the funny part is, they're not gonna destroy anything, they'll just clip through everything. Which is pretty funny when you see it for the first couple of times, but after a while it gets old. And don't get me started on the AI, it's very specific. If you try to blind them with a flashlight, that's okay. If you destroy a box or something within an earshot, they're gonna ignore it. But if you get too close to them while walking on two legs, whoa, buddy, aren't you getting full of yourself? And by that point you'll get assaulted. Maybe even teleported to another room if it's the Spectre, who for all intents and purposes looks the same like any other zombie. And the only way to differentiate him is to carefully get close to a zombie who is doing something and see if there's a threat indicator rising up. If there's nothing, you get a free attack on the zombie, otherwise you're gonna be beaten and teleported by the Spectre to another room. Don't block him, don't try to do anything, the Spectre is invulnerable and he will just jump onto you and do his thing. Which can be useful at times, just make sure you have a first aid kit on hand. And be careful because the Spectre will change his location afterwards. Which makes him an interesting obstacle to deal with, but he needs to be worked out visually. And maybe you can use your cursed hand to deal some damage to him, that's just a thought. And while the monsters are your main focus most of the time, the primary objective is lift the curse. And to do that, you need to find the keys that open doors that will lead to another key that will lead you to another door, and you repeat this process several times until you find that door that leads you to the source of the curse. And here lies one of my biggest gripes with the game. There is a lot of doors, locked doors, with small rooms that go nowhere. There are no puzzles, no bosses. There's just a zombie or a Spectre guarding a key that will unlock the door for a room that has the same setup. And in most cases, the keys are just on the floor in front of the doorway, so you can just open the door, grab the key, and close it. And you have to repeat this process 5 times in a row. There might be a slight setback if you encounter a zombie or a Spectre near the key, but you just have to take the key and open the next room. It's that easy. Well, you still have to locate the room and deal with the zombies, but at this point you'll be able to avoid most of the encounters. And that's something I would recommend that you do. Avoid encounters and just focus on finding the next room. And not because the zombie encounters are tough or anything, it's simply the matter of fact that you will be disoriented, to put it mildly. There are no clues or hints that will guide you towards the next area. You'll just have to randomly run around and stumble across doors until you see the title of them, and then try to remember if you opened that door or not. And then walk in on a group of zombies or a Spectre. It's fun at first, but afterwards it becomes tedious and you're just rushing along to finish the whole thing. And that's how I would describe the game as well. It has a fun start, but when it loses its momentum, it just turns into a walking simulator with occasional jump scares. And that's not good for the game's longevity. It needs puzzles, it needs better designed maps, maybe another monster or two, and an interesting lore that will keep the audience hooked. Otherwise, it will turn into a vivid memory for anyone who played it. And that's a shame, because there is potential here. And I honestly hope that people at Apphic, if they see this, will add more to this game as it develops more and more. Until then, my name has been Bedomy, thank you very much for watching, and good night.